Hello and welcome back to the Poet Speaks podcast. And today our next guest is a Dublin poet and playwright central to the rise of the Irish spoken word scene. His poetry videos have amassed over 3 million views online, including My Ireland, a short poetry film commissioned by St. Patrick's Festival. He has performed extensively at top venues and events such as Electric Picnic, Other Voices, the National Concert Hall, the Abbey Theatre, Vicar Street, alongside Oscar winner Glen Hansard, the London Palladium, the Oscar Wilde Awards, Glastonbury Festival, and Georgetown Literary Festival. He's laughing. His debut collection, Fear Not, is published by Arlen House with a launch due in June 20. Launch was in June 2018. Welcome to the podcast, Stephen James Smith. Stephen, how are you?
I'm all right. Thank you very much, Amanda.
Why are you laughing? You couldn't even make it through your introduction.
Oh God. I mean, bios, do they really matter? It's sort of, who cares? I suppose it's funny when you look back at the things maybe you've done or achieved or whatever, but ultimately poetry is about connection, isn't it? It doesn't really matter where. I actually paid a friend to write my bio because I don't really want to, and I haven't updated it in a few years. I probably do need to update it at the moment because I've got some work coming up, but it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, you know what? I always say the bio is a very important part because a lot of people, they're not introduced to your work, so it gives a perfect introduction before we begin our conversation. So even though that's why
it's very professional.
yes, that's why I read it. The guest doesn't read it. I read it for them. You know what I mean? So whenever you come on, it's like a guest comes on. It's like, oh, pat on the back to them. You know what I mean? They don't have to give themselves a pat back. I give them a pat back. All right. Well, Stephen, how are you? How are you doing? Please tell us where you are in the world right now.
Yeah. Well, the real answer is, well, I'm happy to talk to you in the here and the now. But I as we alluded to before we started recording, there's other things going on in my world. I have friends and family in Russia right now, and I'm my mind is elsewhere a little bit with that. But in the here and now, where I am, I'm currently in the southwest Ireland. So you said I'm from Dublin. I am from Dublin, but I moved down to Wexford. So I'm very lucky to be looking out at the Irish Sea through my window here, which is ever changeable, and it's kind of good to ground me and remind me that there's something bigger out there in the world, and make me feel a bit smaller. So yeah, I'm in Wexford in the sunny southeast of Ireland at the moment.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about what is Ireland like? You're born, bred, raised, and currently have lived there your whole entire life. For folks that don't know, and I think a lot of people that are listening to the podcast, Ireland, where on the map is Ireland? We're aware it's a small country, but where exactly are you located? And tell us, what is it like in terms of just the people there? What is it like in Ireland?
Oh, right. That's a big question for a small country. Yeah. So we are an island of about 6 million people, and we are on the west tip of Europe. So the last port of call before you get to America. Despite only having 6 million people on the island, there's approximately, I think, 80 million people worldwide that have Irish heritage. So we kind of have quite a big global footprint. It's tough to maybe give a sweeping generalization about a people. Irish people would tend to, I guess, be quite talkative, hopefully friendly, and interested. We have a history, I guess, of colonization, in terms of the British Empire and a struggle there. We have our own language, the Irish language, Gaeilge. So I think that's maybe partly influenced the literary tradition, that we kind of have this hybrid, this idea of using our own native changa, which means tongue in Irish. But yeah, I mean, everybody has a stereotypical view, I guess, of what the Irish person is, this drunken person, a bit of fun. maybe there's some truths and stereotypes, but I think, you know, as a people, we have developed from that a bit. You know, so yeah, I don't know what else to, like, there's so much more I could say, but I don't know what else I should be saying.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think people definitely have a stereotype surrounding Ireland. Like you said, maybe for people, let's say in the US, maybe it's leprechauns, St. Paddy's Day. That's kind of the history of Ireland that you get, but it's clearly such a long, rich tradition. Tell us a little bit about what is the spoken word poetry scene out in Ireland like? Like I said, when I talked about your bio, you've been a big central rise to the Irish spoken word scene. What is it like out there in terms of spoken word poetry?
It's pretty small. You know, like, again, if you think of an island of 6 million people, whereas, you know, you hail from New York, and I mean, I don't know what the population of New York is, but it's massive. I've been very lucky to go to the New Eureka Poetry Cafe in 2011 and perform there, and I was there for the Grand Slam final as well, which was electric, and you had about 400 people in the venue. I think, like, Ireland has this rich oral tradition, so this idea of spoken word, I think, is maybe more of a rebranding of what is our ancient tradition anyway. So you can, and again, I hate to maybe fall into this romantic stereotype of what an Irish bar and Irish culture is, but it wouldn't be unheard of to see somebody reciting a poem in a bar here in Ireland. And, like, I guess a lot of the spoken word per se, it takes place in bars. It's becoming a bit more mainstream now. A lot of the arts and music festivals have poetry stages at them these days. That wasn't the case when I kind of started. So it's been nice to see that platform being given to more people, but it's still quite small, to be honest with you, Amanda. You know, I don't want to pretend that it's something that it isn't. There are nights and people that are open to it. Yeah, like, it's not on the scale, naturally enough, as other countries.
For sure. I'm curious then, how, since it's so small, how did you come into spoken word then? What was the inspiration for you to really just make it such a career of yours? What led you to it in a place like Ireland where it's so small still? You were just, how did you kind of fall into it?
By accident, really. Like, I mean, in essence, I'm a failed musician. And even the term, like, as a career, the idea for me of a professional poet is an oxymoron. I don't think anybody should really be chasing poetry for monetary gain. It's nice when you can be paid for your art, and not to suggest that artists shouldn't be valued. Of course they should be, as all work should be. But, like, for me, I started to write some songs when I was about 16 or thereabouts, when I was learning a bit of guitar. Then I heard about an open mic night for some music, and from that I heard about a poetry night, which I went along to because I'm quite a curious person. I go to anything and try and experience it. I might go a second time, even if I didn't like it, to confirm my suspicions. So I heard about this poetry night, and I went along, and I had a great experience. And the idea that poets are dead people in books, you know, and this idea of what poetry was challenged, and my stereotypes of what a poet is or could be was challenged in that evening. And all of a sudden, poets became my friends. I was playing football with them. We were doing just, like, quote unquote normal things, and that just normalized what poetry was, and became more and more part of my life. And then I got opportunities to perform with different bands, and actually, a bit like your one of your previous guests who opened for a huge Japanese band. I can't remember the name of them again. Sorry.
Dreams Come True.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, the bands I was opening for maybe weren't as big as them. Although, I mean, I was lucky to perform previously with Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam in about 15,000 people here in Dublin, and some big audiences. So I got some opportunities like that along the way, but I never really set out for that, to be quite honest with you, Amanda. You know, I was just trying to create things and hopefully connect with people.
Absolutely.
And have some sort of self-discovery myself along the way, you know.
So at one point, tell us, I'm curious, so you were opening up for Pearl Jam doing spoken word poetry, one of the performers from Pearl Jam doing spoken word. How did that kind of, I'm always curious then, how do spoken word poet artists, how do you intertwine that with rock bands? Like, how did you end up being an opener for a band like that?
So Eddie Vedder, the lead singer of Pearl Jam, is good friends with Glen Hansard, who is an Irish musician, and I'd be friendly with Glen, and Glen has won an Oscar, so he's quite famous for his music and whatnot. And Glen was performing with Eddie, and he introduced him to my poetry. So when they were doing a gig here in up the road in Dublin, I was invited to perform with that, and like Glen was kind enough, he brought me before to perform in LA, and I performed in New York. I've also performed in Ottawa, Montreal, Chicago, the Green Mile, and some other places like that. So sometimes that's with musicians, and other times it's with literary festivals. But yeah, it's just kind of chance. You know yourself, one thing leads to another thing.
Absolutely.
You connect all the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember there was a phrase someone had told me in terms of like your career and your life. It's obviously it's easier to connect the dots at the end. It's easier to connect your route to things at the end, but when you're trying to go through your route, you can't connect the dots with no dots in front of you. You have to really just follow where things may last. So absolutely, I agree with that. Things just come. But that's really amazing, opening up for all types of bands and kind of that story from you. I'm curious, talk a little bit about what is it meant for you? Like I said in your bio, what is it meant for you to be, you know, you're described as central to the rise of the spoken word and poetry scene in Ireland today. What does that mean? Like the gravity of that, like such a great compliment. What does that mean for you?
Oh God, I need to change that, don't I? So I literally got somebody else to write that for me. It's so embarrassing. I guess I've been fortunate to have had some opportunities that have maybe like that there's been some focus or spotlight on me here in Ireland. But again, I take all that with a pinch of salt. It doesn't really matter. You know, I used to run different nights and I still run some events now and again. So I've been hopefully helping to give back to the community where I can and to provide a platform for other people. And I hope to do that again, actually, down here in Wexford. I just moved down here last year during lockdown, and I've been talking to the local arts centre, so to try and get some funding to bring poets from outside of town to perform here. So maybe that's the way you could suggest that I was central, as it were. Just trying to provide a platform for some other people along the way, you know.
For sure. Well, I mean, let's look over some of your work, because you had a big viral hit. It was called My Ireland, which was a short poetry film commissioned by St. Patrick's Festival. What is that? What is it kind of, you've been all over, you know, so you performed on like the Late Show doing spoken word, festivals, stadiums all over the country. What is it that you want people to know about Ireland? Because that seems such a theme, the theme of Ireland in your writing. What do you want people to know about Ireland through your poetry and spoken word?
Yeah, I suppose I do write about people and place an awful lot. But I mean, as an artist, you're going to be influenced by your surroundings, aren't you? With the commission of the My Ireland poem, to be quite honest, Amanda, I nearly like to rewrite that now. Really? It was quite a tough ask. Yeah, I you know, with a bit of hindsight, I would maybe approach it slightly differently. But that's also maybe not a bad thing, that there's been hopefully some self-development in the intervening years. But I maybe that poem was too big for me to tackle at that point in time. I would have been actually influenced a bit by Allen Ginsberg and his poem America. And previously I wrote a poem called Dublin You Are, which I think is maybe my best poem. Excuse me, I'm burping here. I just had a coffee, beg your pardon. And that poem was also commissioned, and that sort of maybe was my first viral hit per se. But in terms of Ireland's, like, I was trying to be as inclusive as possible, but also, like, there's a line in it where I say my Ireland's trying to be all encompassing, but that's an impossible task. So I ask you, what's your my Ireland? Basically, it was the interesting thing that came about from that was Twitter. People were tweeting like hashtag my Ireland is, and were adding their own lines to it. So it became more of a national conversation. So for me, that poem was nearly more of a prompt for people to give their own viewpoint on what Ireland is, because I can obviously give mine, but that's only a certain perspective, and I don't have the right to write my own country, as it were. It's multiple voices. So that's what I was attempting to do with it, is really to broaden that conversation and have other people give their perspectives on it. And it is of its time. Like, I mean, as I say, I'd like to nearly rewrite it now. And like, somebody might kind of do their own My Ireland 2.0 in future. Like I wrote a poem, as I mentioned, called Dublin You Are, and that was heavily influenced by a poem just called Dublin by a poet from like the 1930s called Nui MacNeice. And it's an incredible poem which I've memorized, and I try to pay homage to the literary traditions that came before me as well, and be aware of that, and be a student of poetry and literature. But yeah, that not that I was trying to rip it off, but it was a template as such for the work that I was doing in my time, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, so going on to that poem, Dublin You Are, you were able to, I mean, that became a big viral hit for you. You performed that on the Late Late Show, which is for those that don't, that's a late show in Ireland, one of the shows, late night talk shows in Ireland. So
it's
that's
the longest running talk show in the world.
Wow.
So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so it's been going on.
Who's the host of that? Who's the host of that?
Well, he's not the same host anymore. So they've had three hosts. So the first host was a man called Gay Byrne, and so he was quite young when he started it. But they cover all sorts of topics from the serious to the city, and there's some music and culture, and it challenged a lot of. It progressed a lot of. Politics, I guess, in Ireland, and challenge a lot of stereotypes. So it was quite an innovative. Yeah, I can't even say the words right now. it was progressive.
Very innovative. Maybe that's what you meant. Innovative. There you go. Oh, so for you to perform a spoken word poem on that show, I mean, that was a big moment then. That was a huge moment. You never see spoken word artists on daytime or late night talk shows, especially the longest running one in the world. For you performing that poem, Dublin You Are, how special, or what was that moment meaning to you when you came on that stage and performed it to record for the show?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Like there's over 1 million people that watch that show each week. So it's just part of Irish culture, and it might be a slightly older demographic of people that watch it. So like I'm kind of going to the shops and stuff like that, people would kind of recognize, not all the time, but like after that, some people would say, "Oh, that's the guy." So that was kind of it was strange to deal with that, to be honest with you, like, or standing at the bus stop and people wanting to take a selfie with you.
Like, whole new level. Absolutely, whole new level of whole new level of fame and like recognition. So I want to kind of scale back a little bit. My Ireland, you had said a little earlier, you had said you almost kind of regret if writing that poem, if you could rewrite it now, you'd rewrite it. It's a very big statement. Not a lot of people tend to say that about their very well-known works. What again, I kind of want to like harken back to that. What do you feel like now with fresher eyes what do you truly kind of wish you would have changed about that? Is it not only, you spoke a little bit about it, is it not only just the writing, but is it also just the whole, maybe the feeling you had now is different when you're saying my Ireland? It just looks different for you now?
Um, but the simplest answer is it's probably too long. Even though I actually wrote a lot more, like it's about 1,800 words, something like that, and to perform it takes me something like 9 minutes or thereabouts. And it like in performance, it takes quite a toll on me, and I think I could have edited it down more. As the saying goes, brevity is the soul of wit, and poetry is meant to be a distillation. Now, obviously, there's epic poems out there, but I think I could have. I think I probably could have said enough in less, and because it was kind of a prompt, maybe for more of a national conversation. Those things that I was saying were going to be said anyway by other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one thing that I would have done differently.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. So
I was very proud, actually. I got to collaborate. That's one thing I do enjoy doing. So I collaborate with different musicians and with a great director. So I wouldn't have changed any of that. The musicians that I got to work with were absolutely incredible, and I'm really proud of that. And collaboration always gives you a chance to try and learn and develop a little bit more as an artist. So that was cool, but just being self-reflective, I probably would have changed a bit, shortened it a little bit more.
Absolutely. Okay. That's very fascinating. Looking back, you would have shortened the poem. That'd be the thing that you changed. I think that's very fascinating. So let's go into, so your debut collection came out in 2018. So your debut collection is called Fear Not. Tell us a little bit about what was that collection, the name, what does that title mean, Fear Not? And tell us where the inspiration for your debut came from.
Yeah, well, here it is here.
Oh, nice.
That's it there.
Oh, look at that cover. Wow, check that thing out.
Other things as well they've done. The cover was done by a friend of mine, Steve Simpson, who actually also designed, those of you on the podcast can't listen, but you can see the poster behind me there that Steve did, actually for the My Ireland print, as it happens. Cool. Fear Not, I guess, like, I wanted it to be kind of a declarative statement, and to allow people to sense that there's no point in approaching the world with fear, and also maybe saying that to myself. And then you could also have, like, flip it around and say, like, fear that like the not doing something is also taking a risk. So you need to get out there and do things. So that's I guess the angle that I was going with there. And it took me a while to get to it. To be honest, I'm actually dyslexic, so I maybe could have had a book out sooner, but I didn't have the confidence with the written word as much, and maybe that's another reason why I kind of fell into the oral tradition of poetry. I mean, poetry is an oral tradition first and foremost anyway, but I think that's why it took me quite a while to get to the book, but I'm proud of it. It thankfully it was well received, and I did a little poetry pamphlet since then, and I'm going to be releasing my debut album on the 1st of April. Yeah, so I know I've done a few other bits and bobs. I wrote a play as well, and some other things. But my next thing now is to do this album, and then I have a tour of Ireland and the UK with that. So I'll see how that goes.
So a lot of things coming up. That's fascinating to me, because I had, I was actually going to ask you, I'm like, your debut book collection launched June 2018, but you had been out on the scene, doing your thing for a while since then. So, that's a pretty, that's quite a revelation, saying that you had dyslexia, and that's the reason why it took you so long to just, write the book. I think that's a very fascinating thing. What, you know what, I'm so curious, part of the show is teaching people about different forms of writing. We are all poets, I like to always say, because we all have a story to tell. I'll try to communicate in a different type of way. What would you tell anyone maybe with diverse learning developments, in terms of, hey, poetry can be for you too. You have a story to tell, you have a voice to be heard, you can do it as well. Well, what do you tell that young kid, girl, boy, doesn't matter, he, she, they, them? What do you tell them that may have those diverse learning developments, maybe dyslexia, ADHD, all those things?
Yeah, it's a good question, Amanda. Like, I guess once I only realized I had it a bit later in life, and not that I want to put a label on myself, but knowing that that's what the issue I had was, it gave me a bit of confidence to ask for help.
Yeah.
So yeah, first and foremost, don't be afraid to ask for assistance from people. And if people are prepared to mock you because of something like that, it says more about them than it does about you. And then for like, my handwriting might not be great, but like, I'm lucky to have a smartphone, and on that, obviously, I tend to write down all my ideas there, and just having like the notes section on your phone. So I tend to, if I'm out and about walking, if I'm walking or in the shower, that's when I get most of my ideas,
Yes.
So I tend to just make the note. Well, obviously not the notes on my phone in the shower, but I tend to make the notes then on my phone and work away on my laptop. And having that sort of technology these days is really helpful with dyslexia, because you have the spell check there. And then also, you have your voice notes as well. So poetry can be an art form. So just jot everything down. It's so essential, because if you get an idea, it's like, it's a blessing. So it is. It's like catching lightning. So if you don't write it down in that moment, you need to do that, no matter whether you have a learning difficulty or not. But yeah, certainly if you have dyslexia or any sort of other challenges, there is probably some sort of technology there to help you, and it certainly helped me. And don't be afraid to ask for help. It's essential. So it is sometimes. Yeah.
No, I think that's lovely to hear someone like you saying, yeah, it's okay, ask for help. I think that's fantastic. So I'm curious then, what do you think, Stephen, what do you think people can truly take away from spoken word, seeing that it's, maybe even in some ways for you, accidentally had such an impact on your life? You know what I mean? You had no intentions per se to really even be a part of spoken word as a poet, but you got your voice out here. What do you think people can truly take away from the art of spoken word?
Well, it's kind of limitless, isn't it? Really, like, it's hard to put a confine on an artistic expression. Like, it can be so powerful. It can move people to change their opinions on things, and that's what great art does. Like, I guess for me, poetry and theatre are very much interlinked as well. I love going to the theatre, and it gives you this voice to challenge stereotypes and to speak truth to power, but also just to have fun.
Yes, yeah.
That's like, to feel part of a community is a beautiful thing. And so if your listeners are out there, obviously, I'd imagine most of them are interested in poetry and spoken word, but maybe they haven't gone out into a community, and hopefully it's safer these days with the pandemic and everything. But get out there and read your own work and share your own work, and you'll be amazed at those connections, and it will have a transformative effect on your own life. And don't maybe approach it necessarily with this idea of it being a career. I think if you approach it in that way, it can hinder your creative process. But poetry, and art, like, let's not put a limit on it, because who knows where it will take you. Like, I didn't expect to speak to you, Amanda. Like, I'm very happy to speak to you, so I am. And who knows who will connect with me or you from us sharing these things. It's really, let's not put a limit on it.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, art, what it can do. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm so curious, Stephen, what has been the most surprising thing that you ran into being as a spoken word artist? What is just the most surprising thing that you've been able to do that you didn't think you'd ever be doing with your poetry?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like I guess it's the doors that open up. So, for example, I've been in prisons. I've taught in prisons. I didn't think I'd be in prisons with poetry, and then like the following day, I can be meeting the president. So it's weird where you and one is just as valid as the other, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that surprises me about art and creativity. Again, I'm sorry, maybe I'm repeating myself, but it's just these connections and what one thing leads to this to the other. So like I didn't think I'd be in a prison speaking with people that have done despicable things, let's face it. But at the same time, have connected through poetry and are trying to find some sort of healing and cathartic experience through that, and to see the humanity, because you can do something foolish and you're still a human. There's still potential there within people to so that was really quite a powerful moment when I was in the prisons working, and some amazing poetry was written. But yeah, who knows who you're going to meet next or where it will take you. That's the thing that amazes me all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wait, so hold on. You said you met a president? Did you meet the president of Ireland?
Yeah. I was invited to what we call the Orsan, which is like our White House, as it were. So I was invited there for Bloomsday. So Bloomsday, maybe is when Ulysses, James Joyce's novel, was set on Bloomsday. So they did an event for writers in Ireland here, and yeah, I met him actually a couple of times. But he's a writer and a poet also, as it happens.
Wow.
Yeah, it's strange how you can end up conversing with politicians and different leaders. Or I've also got to work with them, which I really enjoyed. I got to work with the Dublin Gaelic football team. So that was really a special moment for me. I like sport as well, and to connect with my hometown team and to write poetry for them. I mean, maybe people have, again, talking about stereotypes of what a sports team might be like, but they were so receptive to poetry. They were so interested in engaging with it, and that was a really great experience. And they went on to win the All Ireland Championship that year as well. So I kind of claim a little bit of credit for that.
yeah, take your credit. You know what? That's all the places you'll go with poetry and spoken word. I mean, God, everyone. Stephen says that so casually. Yeah, I've met the president of Ireland just a couple times. Yeah, totally normal. He says that just so casually. But no, that's truly amazing. I completely agree with you. The connections that you can make through writing, I mean, it is quite amazing. So for anyone listening, just get out there, go do your thing. Go do your thing. So Stephen, as we're wrapping up, it's been such an amazing conversation so far. I have one last question for you. All right. So why do you need to get your words out?
Why do I need to get my words out? You stumped me now at the end. We're talking an awful lot now. Oh, Amanda, first and foremost, it's for your own self-development and discovery. That's why you should be creating, I think. And it's healing. It can heal. It can heal trauma you might have had in the past, or at least help you to reframe that. And I guess maybe that's in part why I started to create. And that should be the motivation. That's the pure place to come from, not to worry about meeting a president or doing these other things. So I create for me, and it lifts a weight from my shoulders, so it does. And then I guess in performance, if you really connect with the poem and performance, it can have like almost an out of body experience as well, on occasion. Not always, but there are moments where it can, I feel like I'm almost looking down on myself as I'm saying the poem, and that's quite an experience to have. Yeah, first and foremost, to try and get to know yourself a bit better. That's why I try and get the words out. And yeah,
that's what's up. Absolutely. Absolutely. Get to know yourself better. Beautiful, beautiful answer. Thank you so much, Stephen. All right. So as we're wrapping up, please tell us, what is 2022 looking like for you and for your writing and beyond? And where can folks come by your work? Come check out all your info. Please do tell us.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, so I have an album, as I mentioned, coming out next month on the 1st of April. So that's a 9-track album that I've worked with different musicians on. Then I'll be doing 6 gigs around Ireland and 4 gigs around Britain. I hope to maybe have some more international dates later on in the year. Nothing's confirmed just yet. So I'm basically busy until sort of June. And after that, you need to just have a bit of faith that something will come my way. And it normally does. So I'm sure that will happen. If people want to find me, my website is stephenjamessmith.com. And on social media, it's at SJS Words. So as in Stephen James Smith Words. So I'm on all the usual things that people can connect there if they wish, and find my videos and listen on Spotify and all that sort of stuff if they want. And it'd be lovely to connect with some people there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. For everyone listening, Stephen's information will be in the YouTube video of this podcast. So on the YouTube video, the details section, all of his info and links will be in the YouTube video of the Poet Speaks podcast on our podcast YouTube page. All right. So everyone, this is Stephen James Smith. Stephen, oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Amanda. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I wish you all the best with the podcast, and thanks for giving other poets and people a platform. You know, that's really important. You're acting as a beacon for the community. So I'm very grateful. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for being on the podcast. So everyone, please like, subscribe, share this podcast with everyone that you know, all your good friends. Please go check out all of Stephen's amazing work. And this is the Poet Speaks podcast, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye, everyone.